Hello and welcome to AviaDev Inside Africa, the podcast offering a window to the world of African aviation with your host, Jon Howell, founder and CEO of AviaDev Africa. So today you find me on location in beautiful Lusaka. We're trying something new, video podcast here. I'm attending the Airlines Association of Southern Africa Annual General Assembly. And today, as my guest, I welcome our host airline, a private African airline that is a huge success story for the region. The airline in question is Proflight Zambia, and my guest is Keira Langford-Johnson, who is the Business Development Director. A very familiar name, face and voice to those who've been to AviaDev the last couple of years. Keira is making her debut on the podcast. That's quite exciting. And we meet at a really pivotal time of regional growth, with one route announced already that we were going to talk about, and a second which will be discussed today and will be announced by the time all of you get to see and hear this. So Keira, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, John. Thank you for having me on for the first time.
Thank you for having us here in beautiful Lusaka.
You're very welcome.
So let's get straight into it. New route. The CEO this morning on the podium, we'd heard rumors and away we go. So yeah, you announced to us, where are we going? How many times are we going? What's the equipment that we're going to be using? Off you go.
So Botswana, it has been a long time coming. We made our first conversations with them at AviaDev and introduced to the team at CAA Botswana. We saw the numbers, we heard the pitch, we had follow-up meetings, they came to visit us, we saw them at AviaDev again, and now we are very proud to be announcing that we will start Lusaka-Livingstone-Maun in May 2026. We'll operate from May until October, so it'll be a seasonal route connecting Victoria Falls and the Delta, two of the most iconic tourism destinations in Africa. Botswana's tourism capital, Zambia's tourism capital, 3 times a week, Livingstone-Maun, with connections onto Mpui and the Lower Zambezi to explore South Luangwa and Lower Zambezi National Parks. Excited.
Incredible. We're super excited about this, obviously, because our hosts in Botswana will be super pumped for this, and it's going to happen and launch just before we do the event next June. So really great time. But I think what would be really nice to hear, you mentioned obviously AviaDev was involved, but we're only a part of a huge process. Like how long? Because I always say to people about route development, this is not something that happens overnight. We're talking in October. It's not happening for another 5-6 months. When was the first conversation, and what's actually driving the route as well? Like what convinced you that this is the right time to do it?
Thanks, John. No, great questions. And obviously the regulatory approval process is one of the parts. And I'm very happy to say that we have our foreign operators permit for Botswana and all the regulatory approvals are in place for the route. So we started discussing it in June 2024 at AviaDev in Windhoek in Namibia. We weren't considering a route to Botswana. We weren't looking at Botswana as a destination. Some will accuse us of growing too organically. So our regional expansion has been fairly risk averse. We've been operating into South Africa now for 10 years and we weren't looking to go further afield. We sat down at one of the pre-arranged meetings with Botswana and they had someone there from tourism, someone there from the Air Access Development Committee, and they had the Airport Authority and the CAA, I think it was, and they gave a pitch, they gave us numbers, they gave us statistics, they told us all the reasons why we should be flying to Botswana, and they told us all the things they would do to help us if we did fly to Botswana. And I think, especially for small airlines, the more risk we can take out of these decisions, the more likely we are to embrace them, and the more relevant the country can make it to us, the easier it is for us to justify doing it. And that's what they did. Within a couple of days, if not a couple of hours from meeting them, they had emailed us the presentation, details on who the market would be and what the numbers were and who the contacts would be. And they gave us the assurance that if we decided to do it, that they would help us every step of the way with getting the regulatory approvals and marketing and promoting the route and giving us access to the platforms that we would need to build a viable route. And that excited us. So we started the process and here we are now. So we regrouped at AviaDev in 2025. There were meetings in between in our offices. They came to visit us a few times. And here we are now with regulatory approvals in place, a schedule, and it will be our 3rd international flight out of Livingstone, which is very exciting for Proflight as well. By default, we have ended up making Livingstone Zambia's tourism capital almost a secondary hub for the airline, which I think shows our commitment to not just connectivity, but also commitment to tourism.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great overview. And I think the message here for all the airports and what we've been preaching since I got into this 12, 13 years ago is it's about active route development. It's not order taking. And it's also about risk mitigation. If you can provide the airline with the message that we are your partner, we are part of this, as opposed to we see you as you are our customer and you will pay and this, that, and the other. And it's just changing that perception of how you adapt. And that's, of course, what happens at AviaDev is these guys came prepared. It's the textbook example of come prepared with something maybe you hadn't considered. You run your own numbers, right? You're going to check these, but it gives you confidence that these people really want you and that they're presenting to you something you haven't seen before. And then you can make that jump, because ultimately, if a route fails, the airport will still be there, but the airline will take the hit. And what about that market? It's a seasonal route, so it's purely tourism, or there's some other bits in there as well you're hoping to pick up?
Jon, I think it's primarily going to be tourism. I think there'll definitely be some VFF and a little bit of business travel between Lusaka and Maun, and we'll embrace that business travel if we can get it. And one of our biggest strengths is our network. Proflight has an expansive domestic network, and we will optimize connections to the rest of Zambia. So Ndola, Soweto, Kalambila, all the business places, Mansa, Kasama, etc. But tourism will be the primary market for this route, which is always slightly riskier, but it's a niche market. There is nobody else servicing Lusaka or Livingstone direct to Maun at the moment. Lusaka Maun won't be direct. It'll be via Livingstone. You will clear customs and immigration in Livingstone, but still will be the fastest, most convenient way to connect. And it'll only be 4.5 hours to connect the Delta to South Luangwa National Park and Lower Zambezi National Park, which
it's a very different experience,
very
right?
different experience. And let's not forget that Kenneth Kaunda International Airport has amazing connectivity. I think we've got 14 online international carriers now. There will be a lot of, I think, advantage to the tourism market to use ARCO as a hub.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. And it's really interesting that obviously the way that you've designed this route through Livingstone is all part of the plan. And that brings me on to the second route, which has been announced. So that isn't an exclusive, but that is similar in its setup. And that's Windhoek in Namibia. So let's talk a little bit about that. It's 3 times a week via Livingstone again. So this is slightly different, but it's tourism focused as well. Again, it's a unique market, but it's not entirely.
No,
tourism.
So it is a unique tourism market connecting Victoria Falls and Namibia. It's been done before from the Zimbabwean side with Discover. It's being done with Fly Namibia. So there is an existing tourism market. They're connecting the Victoria Falls with the safari product in Namibia, but I think the main market that we are expecting on that route is the Zambian business market.
Okay.
So business travel between Lusaka and Windhoek is very high, or Lusaka and Namibia is very high, going either to Windhoek or onwards to Walvis Bay and other areas. And at the moment, it's a very long travel time. It's a full day travel, and obviously geographically it shouldn't be. So it's slightly different to what we're doing with Botswana, because the Lusaka-Windhoek route will just be a stopover in Livingstone. You won't have to do customs and immigration in Livingstone. You'll stay on board for 30 minutes. So it will optimize the shortest travel time for the business travelers coming from Lusaka, while also offering a seamless tourism connection from Livingstone.
Fantastic. And this also was a route that Windhoek again when we were there in 2024.
So Livingstone
and
Windhoek was, I think, a birth child of 2023.
Oh, cool.
I think it was Nairobi.
Cool. So again, it shows you the length of this process.
Yes, and I think that was it was Nairobi. We sat down, and again, it was the tourism board, the airport authority, and the regulator, and they made a pitch. And that particular meeting, I can remember walking away from the desk and getting the email straight away. Here are the numbers. They'd shown us 10 slides. They sent us 42 slides. And there was all the information. And
go and check it out yourself.
And there's only 1 or 2 of us that attend these conferences, right? So you then have to go back and justify it to a team of people on why you should do it. And they did the work for us. So we had all the information we needed, and we were able to announce just after AviaDev this year.
It's just such a perfect example, again, very similar to the other one. And the big question, the thing I wanted to ask you about both of these routes is the visa situation. So obviously it's slightly different. You've probably got international travelers on the Livingstone-Maun traveling on international passports, but you've got the business travelers. So how easy is it from a visa perspective, and how big a consideration is this for you when you're looking at markets in the region?
Ease of access is extremely important. It was less important for Namibia because for Namibia, our primary market is the business market. Visas are less of an issue because it's primarily regional travel. But for Botswana, very important. And Zambia's got over 100 countries, including the majority of our key source markets that don't require a visa to come to Zambia. And Botswana's the same. So the majority of the key source markets for Botswana and Zambia are the same and don't require visas. So it does make travel very seamless. And I think a big part of people deciding where to go is it's not the cost of a visa, it's feeling welcome in a country. And I think when it is visa free and there's one less piece of paperwork to process, it just makes them feel welcomed.
Yeah, visa free, visa on arrival. You know, I always see visas as a tax on tourism, really, because you can't come in the country without paying it. And I'm paying to come into your country to spend money. It might be a simplistic way of looking at it. And of course, you need to fund the immigration and all the rest of it. But that's a different conversation. But it plays a huge part in route development. And we know that from so many other routes that either have been limited by things like visas or bilateral conversations and all that sort of stuff. But we won't go into the bilateral side today. So before I let you go, I just wanted to ask you about the fleet as well. Tell us, because you're a unique carrier in terms of the aircraft you operate. It's a bit of a variety, smaller gauge aircraft. What have you got? And we've got lessors and banks listening to this. They'd love an inkling to go, we would look at something newer, bigger, whatever it may be. But like, where are you at and what are you thinking medium term? Because it's a bit of a growth period.
It's definitely a growth period. I think we went into COVID with 1 CRJ and 3 J41s, and we now have 5 of each, and 6 if you count the parcel freighter. Yeah, we operate 10 aircraft. The CRJ 200, the 50-seat jet, has been perfect for our regional expansion. It's versatile. We can use it on Cape Town. We can use it on domestic. It feeds our network really well, and Proflight's network it's our biggest strength. We throw frequency at our high demand routes to make up for the fact that we don't always have the capacity. So we're very good at adding frequency on domestic. That's obviously a lot more challenging on regional. So during peak holiday periods, we do add extra flights and operate extra frequency during those periods. But we recognize we're now ready to take the next step, but we need to make sure that what we decide to do tomorrow is something that is sustainable for the long term. And as I said before, we can often be accused of growing too organically and being too risk averse.
But you don't want to go the other way.
We don't want to go the other way either, because we also think that that's been a fundamental part of our success as well, is small gauge aircraft, niche market, and trying to do what we do well rather than trying to compete in areas that we're maybe not as knowledgeable on. So it's a big step to add a third fleet type, and it would be a big step to take on a larger aircraft, and whether that would be a turboprop to meet the domestic demand, or whether it would be a larger jet to meet the regional demand, or whether it be one of each. It's a strategy that we have to decide on, and I think it will be for Q4 2026, possibly 2027, not for the first half of 2026.
You can do what you need to do now with what you've got.
And we've got the fleet that we need for right now, and we've got a strong team to support it, and we've got good partners to support us. Yeah, we've got to watch the space. We're excited on that.
Okay, awesome. The grilling is over. Thank you for being on the podcast. Thank you for being an advisory board member. Thank you for hosting us here. In Zambia twice in a month is just a real treat. And it's just great to have such a strong success story in us bringing those new routes and those stories of that collaboration. And I always say, all that we're doing at AviaDev is trying to help create those connections. And it's then up to the people who come with a compelling business case, you to listen, and everybody then to do that work that can take 3 years. Sometimes that's short. Some of these routes are 10 years in the making, 5 years in the making. It's not an overnight thing. But we're looking forward to supporting ProFlight and keeping the message going over the next few months, years, and all the rest of it. So yeah, thank you for hosting us.
Well, thank you for giving us AviaDev. It is the platform that we needed for our regional expansion. So we're very grateful. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. So thanks everybody out there for listening. If you did enjoy this podcast, do subscribe, do hit share wherever you're listening. Share it with somebody in your network you think would benefit from having a listen. And we will be back for the next episode very soon. Take care. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.